First of all, I apologize. The roads were terrible this morning, and then my windshield wiper cleaner froze, so it was wet, and we had to stop a couple times trying to clean off the windshield. Then we got here, I had no idea I had to go around there, so I'm downstairs. You saw me, huh? I saw you. Good man. I'm down here waving. Hey. Well, look. First of all, thanks, Tom, for standing in for me. I appreciate that. This is an important race. And frankly, I did not plan to get involved in this race. I really didn't. I was busy trying to make sure that we won the U.S. Senate seat and won here in Virginia and made our contribution to winning the presidency. Obviously, it didn't work out quite the way we hoped. And when that happened, I sort of began to rethink my plans and felt that it was extremely important, given what I see happening in the Republican Party, given what I see going on with the conservative movement right now, extremely important that I stay involved, that I get involved in this race. Because in the Senate race, we were arguing that the federal government was out of control and that there needed to be leadership in Washington that would be a firewall against its encroachment on the rights of individual citizens. I think the same argument has to be made today here in Virginia. It's clear that they're out of control, but now I believe they're going to begin to encroach with the implementation of Obamacare and other things on our rights as citizens of Virginia. And I believe that we've got to have leadership that understands that and is willing to fight over that issue. We've got to have leadership, first of all, that inspires us, because right now we're in, as you all know, I mean, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is that we might well have an independent candidate running. It's bad news that that's even being talked about, but it's a reality. We've got to have candidates who can inspire us to stay in this fight, to not become dispirited or discouraged. We've got to have candidates that can unify us, that can bring us together. As you all know, in the last race, I ended up becoming friends with all the other candidates because I never said anything negative about them. I was always looking ahead to the general election and realizing it was not about me, it's about the cause. If it's about the cause, you put the other stuff aside and you unify. And the same thing is true this time. We're going to have to unify come May 18th and get ready for the general election, because, folks, make no mistake about it, they are sharks and they smell blood in the water. They've got our 2 U.S. Senate seats and they want the governor's mansion badly. We've got to have leadership that can bring us together and broaden our coalition. Now, Buddy and I sat down and had a long talk, and it was interesting how compatible we were in our view of what the Republican Party has got to do, and apparently the things you all have been discussing. We can't keep doing what we've been doing and expect to be a winning party, expect to put together a governing majority. We simply cannot do it. One of the things, to be fair to my opponents, one of the little subtle criticisms of me is, well, the guy makes a good speech. That's about all there is to it. I mean, look, I guess when you're in competition, some people are inclined to want to put down somebody else. I mean, my Marine Corps service speaks for itself as a radar tech. My graduation from Harvard Law School, going to Harvard Divinity School, building 2 churches, running my own small business for 10 years, my own law practice for 15 years. The fact that I started this organization called STAND, many of you probably saw the videos that went viral, calling black Christians particularly, but all Christians in general, out of a party that has increasingly rejected our Judeo-Christian values and heritage. That thing was seen by 2 million people. So, I mean, I'm capable of doing something other than making a speech. So if anybody's going to vote for me simply because, or vote against me because, you think, well, the guy's just a good communicator, you should, because if that's all there is, then fine. However, while communication is not the only thing, it is something. And it is important that we be able to communicate our message. Otherwise, what do we celebrate Ronald Reagan for? And he was called the great communicator. I became a Republican listening to Ronald Reagan, and I realized I was conservative listening to Ronald Reagan. Because Ronald Reagan spoke to my heart. My wife and I looked at each other after listening to Ronald Reagan and said, you know what? We're conservative. There are lots of people like that out there who share our values, share our views, but who's communicating with them? I'm working with these black ministers. I'm working with Hispanic pastors. I'm going into these Filipino communities and Asian communities. If you give me the nomination, I guarantee I will be out there campaigning in these areas, making our case to these folks in a way that I believe they can relate to and understand. All right, I'll stop with this because I've only got 5 minutes. I'll probably use up all of that. My mother-in-law just passed away at the beginning of the month, 94 years old, probably more conservative than any of you in this room, maybe more conservative than me. That's going some. But in her living room, she had a picture of Barack Obama, the antithesis of everything she believed in. She didn't believe in collectivism. She believed in hard work, individual responsibility. She taught that to my wife of 42 years. Of course, we got married when we were 4. Nobody's ever made the connection with her like Ronald Reagan did for me, because I was intellectually open enough to listen, made that connection that, hey, you know, these people over here that I'm voting for don't have my values, and these people over here that I'm voting against do. We've got to begin to make that connection again, and we've got to have people running who don't care about trying to read the tea leaves and trying to figure out, you know, what's the best political move for me, but are willing to advance these values in a way that other people can relate to and understand. And folks, I believe that Virginia is the place where this battle is going to be fought. I mean, this is where it all got started, where our values were articulated for this nation so eloquently, and it's about freedom ultimately, right? George Washington fought for it. Thomas Jefferson wrote about it. James Madison codified it. Patrick Henry spoke eloquently of it. Frederick Douglass escaped to have it. Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln were assassinated for it. And those of you who are veterans know that many of our friends, people that we know, love, admire, gave their lives for it. That's what it's about. And I believe Virginia is the place where we've got to defend freedom. And if you are kind enough to give me the nomination, I will fight to make sure that we win in the general election. And we will, I believe, with God showing us the way, we will, as Virginians, lead the way. And I believe that liberty is what we'll use to light the way. Thank you all so much.